to get started on the left sleeve cuff, and I am going to do a slip knot and chain 10. I am going to be working in the second chain from my hook, so 1, 2, and I am going to do a slip stitch. And I am going to repeat the slip stitch all the way across. So we will have a total of 9 slip stitches. And I am going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now I am going to be working in the back loop of my stitch. So right here we have, this is our turning chain, and this is our first stitch, our first slip stitch, and this is our V right here, and we are going to work in the back loop only, so just in this guy right here, right at the very back. So I am going to once again insert my hook into the back loop only of my first stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch all the way across in the back loop only. I am going to chain 1 and turn my work, and I am going to repeat this row for this size for a total of 40 rows. I have finished with my 40 rows of slip stitches, and I am ready to do a row of single crochet across the width of my cuff. And I am going to chain 1, and I am going to do 22 single crochet. So all these, if we pull onto our fabric, we have these raised ridges, so there's a total of 20 of them. So basically we are going to do a single crochet every other row. So I'm going to roughly put them in between my two raised ridges, and I am going to add an extra 2 single crochet to make up for my 22 single crochet for this size. So I have chained 1, and I am going to go ahead and do a single crochet, and I am going to mark my very first stitch, and in the next one, I will be doing 2 single crochet in the next 2 rows to make up at least one of my extra single crochet. And I'm going to continue every other rows until about halfway, and I will add another single crochet. And I am going to turn my work, and I am going to switch my hook to my bigger hook, to my 9mm hook. And we are going to get started on the sleeve, on our actual sleeve pattern. So in our very first stitch, instead of doing a chain 2, I am going to be doing a stacked single crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch and do a regular single crochet. And as we can see here, it's created 2 vertical bars, so 1 vertical bar and the second one right here. And we are going to work in the second vertical bar, and we are going to do another single crochet, and this creates a stacked single crochet, so 2 single crochets on top of each other, and this counts as a stitch and it replaces our chain 2. And the reason I do that is to create a straighter edge. Next, we are going to yarn over and insert our hook into our next stitch, and we're going to do a herringbone double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and I'm going to take this loop and slip through the first loop on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull up another loop and pull through, yarn over and pull through the last 2. So this is a herringbone double crochet. So once again, I yarn over, I insert my hook in the next stitch, pull up a loop, I'm going to slip through the very first loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, and pull through 2. And I am going to carry on the herringbone double crochet all the way to my last stitch, and in the last stitch I will be doing a regular double crochet. I'm finishing up my row of herringbone double crochet, so I have one more. I am going to remove my stitch marker, and in my very last stitch I am going to do a regular double crochet, just like so. And I am going to turn my work, and I am going to repeat this last row. So I'm going to do my stack single crochet on my very first stitch, and I will be marking my very first stitch on every rows, as this stitch is quite easy to lose. And I am going to be doing a herringbone double crochet in the next stitch, and I am going to repeat this row all the way across for a total of 20 rows for this size. And I will be continuing to do herringbone double crochet all the way across and finishing with a double crochet. So starting with a stack single crochet, herringbone double crochet all the way across, finishing with a double crochet. And all of this for a total of 20 rows for this size. I have finished my last row of my sleeve, and on the opposite side of my working yarn I've attached a new piece of yarn from a new bowl, and I am going to chain 18 and make those chains on the loose side, not too tight. I am now going to fasten off on this side, just like so. And on my other side, I am going to be chaining 20. From here, I am going to be doing a herringbone double crochet in a third chain from my hook, so 1, 2, and 3. And I am going to herringbone double crochet all the way across my new chains. And once again, let's not forget to put a stitch marker on our first stitch. And I am going to carry on doing herringbone double crochets all the way across all my chains, all the way across my sleeve, and all the way across the other chain on the other side. I am finishing my row of herringbone double crochet, and on my very last stitch I am going to do a regular double crochet to finish off my row, just like so. And we have now a total of 58 herringbone double crochet, 18 across my chain, 22 across my sleeve, and another 18 across my other chain. And I am going to turn my work, and I am going to be repeating this row exactly the same way we did with our sleeves. So we will start with a stacked single crochet in our very first stitch, just like so. And I will be once again marking my first stitch, and I will be continuing across with herringbone double crochet all the way across to my very last stitch, and once again doing a regular double crochet on the very last stitch. And we are going to be repeating this row for a total of 9 rows for this size. I have finished my 9 rows, and I have placed a stitch marker. I counted 29 stitches from my hook and placed it on the next stitch, and this marks half of our sweater. So if we fold our sweater, it's starting to take shape, and this is our right side with our marker, and this is our left sleeve, our left front, and this is the back. And we are going to be continuing just on the back, and it will create a neck opening. So we are going to be repeating the exact same row as prior, but we are only going to be knitting only half of the length. So I will be starting with turning my yarn over to the other side. I'll be starting again the same way with a stacked single crochet and continuing all the way to my marker with a herringbone double crochet, doing a regular double crochet at the very end of our row on our last stitch. I will be turning and repeating this row for a total of 10 rows for all sizes. And don't forget to mark your first stitch. I just finished my last row of my back, and we are going to be starting on our right side of our sweater. And to do that, on the opposite side of my hook, I am going to be attaching from a new ball of yarn, a new yarn, just like so. And I am going to be chaining 29 chains for this size, and I am going to be making them not too tight. We want them kind of loose. Doing my last chain, and I am going to fasten off. And I am going to pick up from the bottom again, and I am going to turn my work, and I am going to continue just as before with my stacked single crochet on my first stitch, and I will be doing herringbone double crochet all the way across to the chain. I have arrived at my chain, and we are going to be working in the back bump of the chain. So this is the front of the chain, and if we turn it around, we have these back bumps right here, and we are going to be working in the back bump all the way across the chain. So I will do my yarn over and insert my hook. Now it will be a little tough to get into them. We do have a big hook, and I am going to be repeating this all the way across my chain with herringbone double crochet all the way to the last stitch, and doing a regular double crochet at the very last stitch. I am finishing the row with a double crochet, and I will be turning my work, and I am going to be repeating this row for a total of 9 rows for this size, and we'll be continuing doing a regular row of stacked single crochet to begin with, and herringbone double crochet all the way across, and finishing with a double crochet. And for this size, we will be doing this for a total of 9 rows. Now that I have finished with my right side, I am ready to get started on my right sleeve. From the right side panel, I have counted 18 stitches and placed a marker on the 18th stitch. I've attached my new yarn on the 19th stitch, and I am going to chain one, and including my stitch where I attach my yarn, I've counted 22 stitches for this size and place a stitch marker into the next stitch. So you should have a remaining 18 stitches across here. And I'm going to flip over, and we are going to get started on our wrong side. And I am going to be doing the same as the rest of our pattern and doing a stacked single crochet in the very same stitch where I attach my yarn. And I am going to be marking my first stitch. And I am going to continue a pattern of herringbone double crochets all the way across and finishing with a double crochet. And I will be placing my double crochet in the stitch before my stitch marker. So I will have a total of 22 stitches across for my sleeve. And I am going to be repeating this row for a total of 20 rows. I have finished my last row of my sleeve. Now I'm ready to get started on my cuff, and we are going to be doing a row of single crochet across. I've switched back to my smaller hook, and each sizes we need to decrease stitches, and for this size we are going to decrease by 2 stitches. So to get started, I'm going to do a chain one, and I am going to insert my hook in my first stitch, drop a loop, insert in my second stitch, drop a loop, and pull through all 3 loops. And this is my first single crochet 2 together. I'm going to continue and do 9 single crochet. And I am going to repeat my decrease by doing another single crochet 2 together. And I am going to finish my row by single crochet all the way to the end. So I'm now finishing up my last single crochet, and I am going to turn my work, and I am going to be chaining 10. And I am now ready to get started on my cuff, and I will be inserting my hook in my second chain for my hook and doing slip stitches. So 1, 2, and I will be doing a slip stitch. And I will be repeating slip stitches all the way across back to my sleeve's edge. I am going to be attaching my cuff onto my sleeve, and I am going to be skipping the very first single crochet we did on our sleeve's edge, and I'm going to insert my hook in the second single crochet. I'm going to do a slip stitch. I am going to be turning my work. I am going to be skipping that first slip stitch that we did to attach the cuff onto our sleeve and working in the next slip stitch of our cuff, and I am only going to be working in the back loop only of the stitch. So I am going to insert my hook and do slip stitches in the back loop only all the way across, and I am finishing up my last slip stitch. I am going to be doing a chain 1, and I am going to be turning around. And I am going to be repeating my slip stitch in the back loop only all the way across, back to my sleeve's edge. Finishing my row of slip stitches. And I am going to be attaching my cuff to my sleeve by inserting my hook into the next single crochet and doing a slip stitch. I am going to turn my work, and I am going to be repeating these last 2 rows all the way across the width of my sleeve. So don't forget to skip the first slip stitch that we did to attach the sleeve to the cuff, and inserting your hook into the next stitch in the back loop only and doing slip stitches all the way across. I have folded my sweater with the right side facing, and I am going to get started on the neckline of my sweater on both sides. And I have attached my new yarn on my left front panel, and I have counted for my, this is the first stitch. I've placed a stitch marker, 1, 2, 3, and I've attached my yarn on my third stitch, and I am going to chain 2. This chain 2 counts as a stitch, so I will be working in the next stitch from my chain 2, and I will be doing a decrease, so a herringbone double crochet 2 together. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. I'm going to yarn over and insert in the next stitch, yarn over and pull up another loop, and I'm going to slip stitch on the first loop on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and this is my herringbone 2 together, and I'm going to mark this stitch because this will become our first stitch, and I am going to carry on with that pattern and do a herringbone double crochet all the way across to my last stitch and do a double crochet in my last stitch. I am now finishing off my first row, and I will be doing a double crochet in my very last stitch, and I am going to turn my work, and I will be doing just a repeat of a regular row with a single crochet stacked together, and I will be marking my first stitch, and I will be repeating a herringbone double crochet all the way across to my stitch marker. I am finishing my row of herringbone double crochet, and I will remove my last stitch marker, my last stitch, and I will place one more herringbone double crochet in my last stitch, and I will turn my work, and I will be repeating these last 2 rows one more time. So I will be chaining 2, and I will be skipping the first stitch because the chain 2 counts as a stitch, and I will be inserting my hook in my next stitch and doing a herringbone double crochet 2 together, and I will be marking this stitch one more time, and I will be repeating my herringbone double crochet all the way across, doing a double crochet in my last stitch. I will be turning around, and I will be doing one more row, starting with a stacked single crochet and herringbone double crochet all the way to the end, and I will be fastening off on my last row. Now that I've finished my left panel, I am ready to get started on my right panel, and from my first stitch I will be attaching my yarn on the third stitch, so 1, 2, 3. The first stitch can be hard to find, so make sure that you count your stitches from the bottom, that you have a total of 29 stitches so you don't miss any stitches. So I will be yarning, putting a new yarn on my third stitch, and in the same stitch I will be chaining 2, and I will be repeating the exact same way as I did to my left side, except that I will be working on my wrong side, and I will be decreasing on my wrong side, and the chain 2 counts as a stitch, so I will be doing a herringbone double crochet 2 together in the next 2 stitches, and the stitches will be a little bit tight because if you remember, this was a chain, so you're just gonna need to work through it a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. And I will be marking my first stitch, and I will be repeating the same as my left side. So I'm going to finish with herringbone double crochet all the way across and finishing with the double crochet on my last stitch. I will turn around and do a stack single crochet all the way across, just do a regular row of herringbone double crochet, and I will repeat this last 2 rows one more time, and I will fasten off. I am now ready to get started on the collar on my neckline, and I will be attaching my yarn. And this, once again, my sweater is folded the right way around, so the right side facing. And I am going to be attaching my yarn for my collar on the right side of my neckline, on my right front panel. And I am going to be chaining one. And from here, I am going to evenly single crochet a row all the way around my neckline, and I am going to be doing 10 single crochet all the way up to my neck opening. I will be doing 16 single crochet across my neck opening, and I will be matching the 10 single crochet onto the other side, and I will be evenly single crochet all the way across. I'll be marking my first stitch so I don't lose it. I have finished my row of single crochet around my neckline, and I am going to be chaining 5. And I am going to be doing a slip stitch in the second chain from my hook, so 1, 2. And I am going to be slip stitching all the way to my neckline. At the collar's edge, I am going to be skipping my first single crochet and inserting my hook in the second single crochet and doing a slip stitch. I'm going to turn my work, and like the cuff, I am going to skip and turn my yarn over to the other side. Like my cuff, I am going to be skipping the slip stitch that we did to attach the collar onto our neckline, and I am going to be inserting in the back loop only of my stitch right there. So I'm going to be skipping the slip stitch and inserting my hook into the next stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch in the back loop only all the way across. And this will work up fast. We only have 4 stitches, so once I'm at the end of my row, I will be chaining 1, and I will be turning to the other side, and I'll be repeating the same thing again and slip stitching in the back loop only all the way across. And at my neckline, I will be inserting my hook into the next single crochet and doing another slip stitch. I will turn my work and skipping the slip stitch that we just did and inserting my hook into the next stitch and the back loop only. And I will be repeating this 2-row repeat all the way around the neckline to create my collar. So I have finished my collar, and I am ready to get started on the seaming of the sides of my sweater and my sleeve. It's not required to be blocking the sweater, but if you do need to be blocking to get your measurements right, then this is the time to do it before you start on your seaming. But do not block your cuff or your collar, or later on when we're done with our waistband, only because we want this to be nice and tight around our wrist. We don't want this to be stretched out. So if you do need blocking, now it is the time to block your sweater. but I am going to get started on my seaming. So I have my right sides facing up, and I am going to be flattening my two sides together on my work surface. I have attached a stitch marker just to mark the beginning of my sleeve, and I'm going to put my two sides together facing each other. So this is the right side facing up, and with my needle and thread I am going to be attaching my yarn, threading through at the very bottom of my sweater, and I am going to repeat it onto the other side. And I am going to be doing this a couple of times just to secure the bottom of it. Oh, maybe I'll do it again as I went right through. There we go. And just to get started on my seaming, I am going to be using the mattress stitch. So basically we are going to be zigzagging all the way across the side and all the way across our sleeve and onto our cuff. And the mattress stitch goes like this. So I will be inserting my needle in between gaps in between stitches. So I will find a gap in my fabric and insert my needle through the gaps, and I will be pulling through my yarn, and I will be repeating onto the other side, and I will be trying to match all my stitches all the way across. Once you get to the sleeve, I will be making sure to match the stripes that the herringbone double crochet creates. I will make sure that they match on either side of it, and I will be repeating my zigzag onto the other side and pull through, and I will be doing it again onto this side. And once you get to a little bit, you can just pull your yarn through, and it will just get your sides together, and it will be just create this nice invisible seam all the way across. So now that I have finished the seaming on both sides of my sweater, I am ready to get started on my waistband. And once again, I have my sweater folded with the right side facing up, and I have attached my new yarn on my left panel, and I am going to chain one, and I am going to be doing a row of single crochet all the way across the bottom of my sweater. And for this size I am going to be doing 20 single crochet on my front panel, and I will be doing 42 on the back and another 20 at the front. So I am going to get started and evenly single crochet 20 on my front panel for this size, and I will be doing 42 for the back, and I will be matching my other front panel with 20. And once again, I am going to be marking my first stitch. I am finishing up my last single crochet, and now I am ready to get started on the band. And the band will be constructed exactly the same way as my cuffs, by chaining 10 and doing slip stitches and attaching my band directly onto the waist. I have finished with my band, and now I'm ready to get starting on the edging of the sweater. I have attached my new yarn on my left panel at the collar, and I've chained one, and I've switched back to my bigger hook. I am going to be inserting my hook in the very same stitch and do a single crochet. And I am going to place my stitch marker, And I am going to be doing a row of single crochet all the way across. So I will be doing 4 single crochet at the collar. The body for this size has 23 stitches, and I will be finishing with 6 single crochet at the band. And I will be also holding my loose end, so I will have less weaving to do at the end of my work. I have arrived at the band, and make sure that you grab both loops of the stitch. So I am finishing up my last single crochet of the band, and I am going to turn my work, and I won't be doing any chain 1 at the beginning or at the end, on either side rather, only because I want my edges of my collar and at the very bottom of the edging, and I want them to be nice and straight, and the chain 1 will create too much fabric. So we are going to go straight into the first single crochet, and I am going to do a regular single crochet with, and I will be placing a stitch marker, and I am going to single crochet all the way across, and I am going to be repeating this row 3 more times. So I will be having a total of 4 rows for this edge on the left side. I have finished with my left side and now ready to get started on my right side. And my right side will be where I will be placing my buttonholes. And I have placed my yarn at the bottom corner of my right panel, and I've chained 1. And for the first row, I am going to do a row of single crochet across, 6 across my band, 23 across my body for this size, and 4 for my collar. So once again, I will be inserting my hook in the same stitch and do a single crochet, and I will be placing a stitch marker, and I will continue to single crochet all the way across. I have finished my first row of single crochet and turned my work, and I have placed some stitch markers to mark my buttonholes, and I have placed one on the 3rd stitch. I counted 9 stitches and placed my stitch mark in the next stitch, counted another 9 stitches, placed it in the next stitch marker, counted 8 stitches and placed it in the next stitch marker. I am now not going to be doing any chain 1 to keep the edges nice and straight, so I will be working directly into my first stitch. I will be doing a single crochet and placing a stitch marker, and I will be working to my stitch marker, be doing another single crochet, and I will be chaining 2. I will be skipping my stitch marker, skipping the next one, and inserting my hook into the 3rd stitch, and I will be single crochet all the way across to my next stitch marker. We'll be repeating the same as the first buttonhole by doing a chain 2, skipping 2, so 1, 2, and inserting into the 3rd stitch, and I will be repeating this all the way across. I have finished my row and turned my work, and I am going to place a single crochet in my very first stitch, and I am going to be doing single crochet all the way up to my chain 2 spaces, and I will be inserting 2 single crochet in each of the chain 2 spaces. So I am going to single crochet to my chain 2. In the chain 2, I will be placing 2 single crochets, and I am going to be repeating 2 single crochet all the way to my next chain 2 space, where I will put another 2 single crochet, and I will be continuing to do this all the way across. I have turned my work, and I will be doing one last row of single crochet all the way across. I am now ready to weave in all my ends, and once I am done with that, I will be blocking the edging, only because I'm not going to be stretching them, but I will be trying to get, this side is not too bad, it's kind of flat, but I will be trying to get the corners to flatten a bit. But do make sure that you do not stretch the edging, because you don't want it to go out of shape compared to the rest of the sweater. And once I'm done with this, I will be placing some buttons, and I like my buttons to be bigger rather than too small. And this is a 1-inch button, and you could also get away with a slightly bigger button if you like. So for our zipper version, I have purchased some zippers, some zipper jackets, 4 jackets, and these are specially made so they separate at the bottom. And you want to make sure that you get those, otherwise it will be difficult to get in and out of your jacket. Also, I like to purchase the plastic teeth so they don't catch as easily with your fabric. For this size sweater, I purchased 16 inches, and I just measured from top to bottom. I have already started half a side of my sweater, and for the edging, I have done 2 regular edging without the buttonholes, so just 4 rows of single crochet on both sides. And to do my to sew my zipper in, I also created this casing on the other side, and it's just a row of half double crochets, and I will be starting on this side very shortly. And so it makes the sewing nice and tidy. So let's get going. I am going to be, first of all, I place a stitch marker here just to mark the point where I need to get started my casing. I just want to make sure that this will be nice and even for my my other side of my zipper. And I am going to grab a 5.5mm crochet hook and my yarn, and to get started on my casing, I am going to be placing it right along here, and I won't be inserting my hook all the way through my fabric. I'll just be grabbing just the stitch through this way. So I am going to insert to attach my yarn, and I am gonna put out like about 12 inches because we will need this to tidy up at the very end of it. So attach my yarn, and I am gonna be picking up the stitches all the way across here, so all along here, to do our border. So I will be inserting in the same stitch again, and I will be chaining 1, and in that same stitch I am going to do a half double crochet, and I am going to be continuing all the way across by grabbing the stitches without poking through my fabric, just right here. And I'll be doing this all the way across, and this will create a casing where I will be folding this, and I will be inserting my zipper, so on both sides. So I am finishing up my casing. I'm almost at the end, and I will leave it roughly about the same as the bottom. And once again, I will be cutting my yarn, leaving 12 inches tail, and I will fasten off. I've inserted my zipper on both sides of my casing and the edge of my sweater, and I have loosely pinned it, and we are going to be sewing the zipper, and as we go we will be removing these pins so we can adjust the height on both sides of our fabric. So I have poked through to hide my knot of my thread on the inside of my casing, so I just want to make sure that it's hidden. And the end of my zipper is plastic, so it's very hard just to get across it, but if you can just push through. And I'm going to try to secure, I'm going to remove this pin here as it's in the way, and I am going to be securing the bottom of my zipper very well, as you're going to be pulling on and off your zipper, so the bottom of your zipper, just to open it and close it, so we want that to be nice and secure. Okay, and I have about the right height on both sides of my sweater, of my zipper, so I am going to be going from one side to the other, and I'm going to be repeating this a few times just to make it nice and secure. And now I'm ready to get started. I'm going to pull this out of the way. And all along the way, I am going to be inserting, this is the right side of my sweater, so I am going to pull a little bit so it's even, it's nice and straight, and I'll do the same on the other side. And I am going to be inserting my needle in between my stitches, and I'll be doing the same thing onto the other side. And I'll pull through. Now the casing was done with a smaller hook, so the stitches are smaller, so you may have to go ahead and insert into the stitch on the right side of the fabric, and sometimes you may have to go through the same stitch twice, because the other side is a smaller stitch, so just find a stitch in between. And I'm going to repeat this all the way across, making sure that I go through between stitches, and making sure that it's nice and leveled off on both sides, making sure that my zipper won't be catching. And when I get closer to my pen, I will be removing that, so it will be easier just to level both sides at the same time. And so I have arrived at the end of my zipper, and I am going to take out my last pin, and I am going to go ahead and continue to go through my stitches all the way to the end. And I will be securing the end like I did the bottom of my zipper, wanting to make sure that it's nice and secure. I'm going to be turning my work around, and I'm going to grab my scissors, and I am going to be like folding my zipper like this just to finish it off. And I am going to be cutting this extra fabric right here, just like that. And I am going to be tucking this in. Looks like I still need to cut a little bit of my fabric. Do it on the other side. My scissors aren't cutting very well today. There we go. And I am going to fold this. And I am going to be sewing and catching that little corner. Go through my stitches. And I'm going to go through it quite a few times to make sure it's nice and secure. Just like so. And I am going to go across here. And I am going to fasten off my thread. And I'm going to do this a couple of times. And I am going to be cutting my yarn, my thread. And now I am going to get my needle and my yarn. And I am going to be closing and finishing off this area right here. So, and I am going to be like going across from one side to the other. I'm just going to try to do this as neatly as possible. If you go from one side, poke through to the other side. And I'm gonna do this until it's nice and tidy. As you can see, it's nice and close. So I will be going ahead. I'll do it one more time. And I will be weaving in my end. And I like to do it 2 or 3 times in different directions, so my yarn doesn't run away. There we go. I'll do it one more time. And I can now cut my yarn off. And I will be repeating this at the bottom here of my zipper. I will be closing this off and making it nice and tidy. And our zipper is ready. Let's see if it works. Still have to weave in my ends on the other side. And here we are. We have a zipper.